This is so weird. The Göbekli Tepe. There's new stuff coming out from that.
So recently there's been a lot of focus and discussion about Göbekli Tepe within the pseudo-archaeological, pseudo-historical community. And I wanted to talk about this video specifically because it kind of highlights all of those major topics that a lot of people are talking about. Hey, my name's Joe. I have bachelor's degrees in archaeology and classics. I am not a practicing or professional archaeologist. I just get on social media every now and again to talk about the topics that I find interesting and respond to videos that I see. So just for some background, Göbekli Tepe is a Neolithic site in southeastern Turkey. It's dated to around 9000 BC and was inhabited till at least 8000 BC. The site is known for its megalithic structures and these anthropomorphic images that appear on these structures, on the pillars. And there has been no concrete or definitive answer as to what this site was used for within the archaeological community. Some archaeologists believe that because cereals were seen processed there, or there's evidence of this processing of cereals, they think that it could have been used as more of an agricultural site to create that kind of food product. Some archaeologists believe that it was a religious site, that the megalithic structures were temples. And this lack of concrete evidence has made the site popular within the pseudo-archaeological, pseudo-historical community because they think that it might be mystic or it might have been constructed and used by some ancient civilization. For example, in this particular video that I'm stitching, the creators believe that it was by a group called the Watchers.
This site was discovered in the 90s, but yet we've only dug up 5%.
Göbekli Tepe was not discovered in the 90s. It was actually discovered in 1963. It was not excavated until the 90s. In 1995, there was a German archaeologist, Klaus Schmidt, who realized its significance while doing research. In 1994, he began excavating it the following year in 1995. It was well known, it was a well-documented site, it was surveyed, it just was not excavated until the 90s. It is true that only 5% of the site has been excavated to this date. And the reason for that I will talk about in an answer to another portion of this creator's video, but I just wanted to mention he is corrected. It has only been 5% excavated at this point.
He did some digging. Guess who owns the Göbekli Tepe?
Oh.
The World Economic Forum. The weirdos that say that you will own nothing and be happy.
I could find absolutely no evidence or information about the World Economic Forum owning Göbekli Tepe. The only thing when I Google that comes up is this creator's video on YouTube. There's nothing on Wikipedia, there's no academic articles, there is absolutely no evidence that suggests that the World Economic Forum has ownership in any portion of that site. So I'm not sure where they're getting that information. If they see this video and they have that information, if they want to cite their sources, that would be great, and I would be happy to correct myself on that. But until that happens, I can't say that he is correct because there's no evidence suggesting that. As of right now, the true ownership that I can find is in Turkey. The Turkish government, the Turkish state owns the site Göbekli Tepe because it's in Turkey. The country owns the site. UNESCO has an interest in the site because it's such an important historical site and it's a heritage site, so it's protected under UNESCO. But it has nothing to do with the World Economic Forum.
These guys that are like dictating everything about our world, they own Göbekli Tepe. And they said we will not excavate it anymore because we want to leave it for future generations.
That makes no sense.
So this is where that 5% comes in. It makes absolute sense why they don't want to excavate the site until future generations are around. And it's not really for future generations. I mean, they say it is, but really what it is they want better technology. This is not an uncommon thing within the archaeological record or the archaeological community. There are a lot of sites that archaeologists will begin to excavate and then they stop because they don't want to do more damage than they absolutely have to. So sometimes archaeologists will wait decades until a new technology comes around that is economically viable for their site, and then they will start excavating again. Things like LiDAR, ground penetrating radar, GIS, just Google Maps in general has revolutionized how archaeological sites are not only mapped, but also excavated and seen. You get layers upon layers of different sites as you go further down, as you have that ground penetrating radar. This was not a technology that could be used even 50 years ago, and now it's used in almost every single archaeological site that there is today. There have been so many archaeological sites that have been scientifically destroyed because that was the best practice at the time. Since the 1800s, the 1900s, these sites could have benefited so much from the technology that we have today. And in just 5 years' time or 10 years' time, we could have a much better understanding because we have better technology. Maritime archaeology is a great example of how technology has really helped to pursue archaeology in a better, more preservative way than in the past, right? Take the Uluburun shipwreck. It's a Bronze Age shipwreck found in the Mediterranean in the 1980s and then excavated in the late 80s and early 90s. The artifact retrieval, the mapping, the photographing, all of that was done by hand. Archaeologists had to dive that site multiple times, I believe hundreds of times, just to get the artifacts and just to photograph and to map the site over and over and over again. Today, we have mapping technology on board ships. We have ROVs that can dive hundreds of meters and retrieve artifacts or map whole sites without an archaeologist having to go and dive. But 30 years ago, that technology wasn't possible. It wasn't economically feasible, even if it was possible. So the fact that the Turkish government and archaeologists made that decision to preserve Göbekli Tepe until technology is better, to save that site from destruction as much as they possibly can, that was a very hard decision. I imagine that being one of the hardest decisions as a career archaeologist, as someone who knows the importance of that site. For one of those archaeologists or one of those researchers, one of those prehistorians, they spent their entire career, and this could be a culmination of that, but they made that decision that protecting that site from excavation, from destroying what it could be one of the most important Neolithic sites of our time, until technology is better, until excavation techniques are better, that is the smartest choice any professional could make in that field. And unfortunately, people who are not trained in archaeological field practices or ethical archaeology can't understand that fact that sometimes the best decision that an archaeologist, a professional archaeologist, can make is to not excavate a site, to not damage it any further than we already have, because it is important for future generations, because more information could come out from this site just by waiting another 5 or even 10 years when technology is better.
Find out so much more about the people or things that built this site. I really do feel like this site had something to do with the Watchers.
So I'm just going to end on this. There is no grand conspiracy theory when it comes to Göbekli Tepe. There is no mystical site there. There is no old ancient civilization that built it and constructed it. It truly is just a very, very important Neolithical site that can house a ton of information if we are just patient enough for the technology to meet our needs. And that's really it. And as always, I will put my sources at the end of this video. Thank you for watching. I hope it was somewhat informative. I will see you later. Bye.